All right, so a few things here. Number one, getting the door front gear spacer thing set up. I don't know what to call it other than that. So what I did was I just took some layers of balsa. I had that piece of laminated G10 to balsa that I was going to use for the nose door. But anyways, I laminated that on both sides of a couple pieces of balsa and made the spacer. So installed it. It's just curing right now. That hole in the fuselage, in person you can definitely still see it, but it's right there, filled in, looks fine. There might be a sticker going over top of it, so that's all done. These are the cutouts for the gear that I had to do. So what it is this, the brake connection here, when the gear retracts, it sits right against this piece, and there's really no way to eliminate that. I mean, I tried putting spacers in the gear to bring it up this way. Problem is that the wheels then sit like half an inch out of the wheel wells, and it does work, but to go up any higher, and let me back up a second. So when I did that, this still contacts there. So there's no, you can't raise this gear up enough to stop that contact. So you can, but then you can't put these cover plates on because your bolts to mount the gear are sitting too high. So I saw a couple other guys do this online, so I did that. Might leave it like that, I'm not quite sure. My other option is to put some can foam in behind there, and then make this a little bit more pretty with some fiberglass. I might do that. I like that idea, just to make it look better. Functionally this would be fine, but I do like cleaning that up a little bit, so we'll see. Might go ahead and do that. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I do need to open up the the surface holes a little bit. There is enough play to get my appropriate travel that I have for all the surfaces. Problem that I run into is when the flaps are down all the way, you have some down elevator, right? So roughly about that much, 5 millimeters or something. But then with full elevator travel after that, which you're really never going to be using, so that's why I'm not overly worried about it. But with full elevator travel, it does lock out at the ends. And on this side, it's actually hitting the side. So I might clean that up a little bit just so we aren't running into any issues later on. I do not. And then the same thing with the aileron. So I do run Crow on full flaps. I know there's lots of controversy either way, but I've always run my flashes with Crow, and it works really well for me. So we've got about that much Crow, and then same thing when we have full aileron movement. We basically run out of movement there, and you can actually, well, you can hear it, but the clevis is slipping inside there. So we do have enough movement, but it would be nice if that was opened up just a touch. So anyways, that's something else that we need to do. That's a big step. I'll get that done and painted, so that's all finished. And I think that's about it so far, guys. Haven't painted that center section yet for the bypass. Might end up painting that because I need to bring it out again and put the FOD screen back on the turbine. And then we do also need to put the smoke tint on the canopy. So I'll cover that in detail, how I do that, and end up with a good job and a nice finish. So that's where we're at so far, and making good progress. Almost done this plane. The last little stages here are going a little bit slower, like doing programming and things like that, but we are getting close to the end. Okay guys, I did decide to fill these in. I'll show you what I did here. So I took a piece of fiberglass cloth, grabbed it with my pliers like this. It was a square that was about maybe 4 inches by 4 inches, folded it in half, grabbed it with my pliers, fed it through, pulled it back so it was sticking out of the hole, and then you can see the spray foam in there. So I just took can foam, stuck the nozzle back there. It's just low expansion foam. It's actually Hilti brand. I have some on hand, so stuck that behind there, and so that's filling up the space in between or behind the actual hole. And you can kind of see on this one I did it first, so it's expanding, and once it starts to harden, I can squish that down and make a nice nice shape in there. So once the shape's done, then I'll be able to cover this area with some epoxy and get it all sanded up nice, and then paint it red so it'll completely disappear. So a bit of a couple steps in there, but it should go fairly quick. And yeah, glad I did it. It'll end up looking better. I'll show you guys the progress as it happens. I did open up the openings on the elevator servos where I needed to. Haven't done anything with the aileron servos yet. I don't know if I'm going to on those, but anyways, I got the magnet set up complete on the nose door. Had to sand this down a little bit as well too, so I got this installed. It was probably about that much too big, and but got it all installed. And basically what was preventing it from staying that size is when the gear door was closed, it was sitting up like this. So that worked out good though. I was able to make it too big, and then sand it with the gear door down to make sure it fits. So that was all good. Then what I did is I used shoe goop, and I put a little tiny washer on the gear door, and that coincides with there's a magnet installed with shoe goop on the back side of that piece of G10 there. I need to put more shoe goop on there because I didn't get enough on, but worked out well. So that I just stuck with shoe goop. This, what I did was, it's a little tough to get in here, so I got a little bit of shoe goop on the magnet, stuck it there, and then took a little bolt or nut or whatever, stuck on the other side so that would hold it in place. So that works out good. And what that does is the gear door stays closed while you're transporting it. So instead of using a piece of tape, just holds the gear door closed. There's not a lot of resistance there, but it's definitely it's enough. So it's not going to interfere with the gear door, and we'll just check that anyways. Yeah, not at all. So, and just a note on the Electron Struts here, basically you kind of need to make a two-stage system. So if you don't put this this flap on the front, what happens is the gear door can get caught on that lip right there. And as the gear's coming up, it'll just get stuck on that lip, and it'll just jam the gear door. So it needs to have a little bumper installed, and then you just sand it down so it's got a bit of an angle. Works out really well. So I'm going to paint all this gray so it all matches, but that works out good. I ended up putting the fiberglass cloth in here, like I mentioned, filled it with foam in the back, and the foam doesn't affect anything. It doesn't make the wing bump up or anything like that. But basically what it did was it allowed a backing plate for this epoxy here. So I just mixed up some 5-minute epoxy with microbloons, stuck it in the spots there, and it will give me a backing plate to sand and then paint it red. I'm just going to use the same red that I used here, so it's not going to be 100% match, but it'll make that all disappear, which is great. And I think yes, that's a pretty tight fit. There was some play here before. You could make the strut retract. On this side, there's still a bit more play, so we might sand that out a bit more to make some more room. So, all right, guys. So a couple things done here. The GPS unit's mounted. I made a little lead there, so it was just the right distance. All the batteries are complete. Basically, we've got the 4 battery inputs there. So the 2 blue ones are the power for the receiver, and of course that one's labeled smoke and gear, and that one's labeled turbine. So the turbine batteries up front here, that's the 2100 milliamp 3-cell life. The smoke and gear battery, I bought a 2-cell LiPo for that, and it's just a little bit lighter than those other batteries that I had. and higher voltage too, which is what I was looking for the gear. So made some foam inserts in there, and that holds everything nice and tight, nice and clean. So very, very happy with all the install. Looks really, really good. So the CG worked out good with everything being there, and it measures out at about 228 ish. So we're going to maiden it where it is, and might adjust it a little bit. If we do adjust it, what I'm going to do is it only needs about, man, to bring it to 232 to 235. Only need to add about 1 ounce of weight, I think, in the back is all it took. So I just put some miscellaneous lead weights on the tail while I was CGing it, and it was darn near perfect. So if we want to move it back, we'll just add a couple pieces of lead underneath the elevator, but it's probably going to work out just perfect where it is. So that, guys, essentially is the install complete. There's really nothing else that I need to do for the install wise, and it's all done. So very, very impressed with this install. I guess I'm happy with myself because it's definitely the cleanest install I've done. So what's left to do for the plane? The only things left to do is the canopy. We need to paint that thing on the inside with the smoke color, and then finish those gear cutouts that I filled with epoxy. Those need to cure more. Other than that, plane's basically ready to go. Gonna add a little bit of stickers here and there, but that's the build. And I will show you guys how I tint the canopies, and I'll also add some pictures of the wheel wells when they're finished. All right, so this is how I tint my canopies. Now the first thing is my last Ultraflash. This is what I use, so it's Tamiya, however you pronounce it, PS31 Smoke. So this is as long as you don't spray this on too thick, it's a nice, a little bit see-through finish. So that's what I'm using for this. So what I've done is I have used rubbing alcohol, cleaned out the inside of the canopy glass, prepped everything off, so that's all prepped. Just tape around the perimeter first, and then put the paper on afterwards. And then what I'll do is I will take my heat gun, standard heat gun. You can either run your heat gun on really high, or just make sure you hold it far away. But we want to warm up that canopy. Don't deform the canopy, but we just want to warm up the canopy, and then we'll lay down some thin coats of this Lexan smoke finish. So that's how I'm going to do it. I'll show you guys the finished product when it's done. All right, guys, the finishing touches on the undercarriage are done. So those pieces are all painted gray. I just painted that gray just because I was there. The cutouts in the wheel wells, those were filled. I sanded them down just a little bit, especially on this one because it needed a little bit more clearance for the brake piece. I didn't check it, but I just sanded it out enough so it would give a little bit more movement like it originally had. And I've painted those red as well too, so I think they look heck of a lot better than having those massive holes there. So that's basically the undercarriage and all the underside pieces that I needed to do. So yeah, that's that stuff. Essentially, the build right now is done. I'm going to open these openings up a little bit, so I'll do that now while I've got it flipped over. I'll do it on both sides. It just needs to be this outside edge, actually, because you can see the clevis hits on the cover. So that's just one last little thing to do. Might spot paint those screw heads yellow, just because I did the red ones while I was there. And that'll be it for the underside. All right, guys, Ultraflash is done. Wing is off, FOD screen is back on. The plane is ready to maiden. It's been a lot of fun putting this thing together. It's probably, like I've mentioned a few times now, this is definitely the cleanest install I've ever done, which is very exciting. It's nice that every time it gets cleaner and cleaner. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Post them down below. My email is listed down below. You can shoot me an email or just list them and I'll see the questions anyways. So thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this this short build series, fuselage swap series, and we'll see you next time.